Welcome
to the joy of code.
Hello, and welcome to episode 434 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Sorry I'm a little late. I had to finish eating something, and now I've finished. We're going to be live hacking on Firefox stuff. Let's do it. Let me start by sharing my screen. Yeah, it's March 25th, 2026, episode 434. Reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what's going to happen. I think I know what's going to go down, but I could be wrong. I've got a sort of a tentative plan on what we might do. I actually need to adjust that plan. Do some reviews. I think today is mostly going to be applying some review feedback, examining some review feedback on the remote renderer, which we've been working on for a couple weeks. We're going to look at some feedback that came in yesterday, see which parts of it make sense, and try and integrate that feedback. And then I have some things in my review queue that I'd like to start clearing out and getting through. And that also may involve us testing some patches, and we're going to go through that process. There's also a question that came in from the forum. I will get to that in just a second, but first, that's the plan. We'll see how we get through it. But the plan may change. I guess that's the TLDR here, is that I have a vague outline, but the plan may change as the episode evolves, and that's fine. We'll just deal with it as it comes. The second thing is that the agenda is accessible to you. It's got all these handy-dandy links. And if you're watching this on YouTube, a link to it will be down in the description. If you're watching this on Airmozilla, it'll be over in the details section. If you're on Twitch, it's down in the channel details. And as I update the agenda, if I make some edits, like let's see if I put a C there and this little spinny spins, then if you reload the agenda, you should get the most up-to-date version. All right, so the first thing that happens is, you know what? I actually want to probably do this part first. A question came in via the form. So there's a rate this episode form that is, I think I've been doing that for years and years, almost since I began. And it is also a way that people can submit questions. And this question came in from last week's episode, and I thought I'd try and address it on camera. The question: I don't have a technical question. I'm rather ask for guidance. I'm a recent CS grad, and I'm working for a small company in analytics. One of the reasons why I got into tech was to build great products and try to solve people's problems with the help of coding. I was always inspired by the work Apple does with their devices, and that's my end goal. With the introduction of AI, of course, it's an AI question. How much of AI is being used in my workplace as well? I don't know if it's still important to learn to code. I pretty much don't know the syntax but I do know what I'm looking for in terms of the solutions that I'm building towards. I don't know the syntax but know what you're looking for in terms of the solutions that you're building towards. Okay. What advice would you give someone who would want to have strong fundamentals and grasp of all things software engineering, especially for someone who's just starting their career out in the tech field? It's scary sometimes to think about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then they included their email address. Okay. Let's see here. This is interesting because I actually I spoke to a set of students that came into the Toronto office yesterday, and there was like a kind of a similar question. It wouldn't surprise me if there's just a bunch of anxiety from new grads or people towards the end of their academic careers in like software engineering or computer science, where they're like, is there a job for me? Not just computer science, like any sort of like space where LLMs and these machine learning tools are starting to embed themselves and be used more widely. And we see headlines about like layoffs. Like I think I actually saw one on the new tab page. Epic Games. Now it's unclear how much of these like tech layoffs that are happening have anything to do with AI. AI is a very convenient scapegoat for explaining a layoff. It's very in with the narrative of like, oh, we're being more efficient. It's a great way of doing a layoff while also not harming your stock price. So there's some like perverse incentives to how one justifies a layoff right now. But you're not asking about layoffs. You're asking about what advice I'd give to someone who wants to have strong fundamentals and to grasp all things software engineering. I think it's still worth doing. I mean, you mentioned something early on, and again, this echoes what I mostly said to the students yesterday, which is you should assume, and this is true when I'm reviewing patches now, I will be reviewing patches later, you should assume that they were written using tools like an LLM. You should just assume it. That means that you shouldn't just take it on faith that the person who wrote it themselves and can explain it. You as the reviewer are responsible for interrogating and understanding what the patch is, what it does, if it addresses the issue, if it is an optimal solution. Maybe it's forgetting a couple of edge cases. You know, as the reviewer, you're one of the first boundaries, one of the first checks, what I call the ablative meat layer, that checks to see whether or not these patches that are being created, generated, written, maybe it's written by a human, you don't know, and you may never know, but just making sure that they pass muster and that they're doing what they say that they do, and they're doing it in a way that makes sense, and in a way that you can then change. That's the other thing. It's not just code review isn't just for catching bugs. That's one of its selling points, is like you can use it, you can catch defects and see things that I've missed, that the author may have missed, but it's also for knowledge transfer. It's so that, the author and the reviewer have a shared understanding of the change that is being proposed, how the change works, and how that change can be built upon. So it is important to be able to read code and understand what it's doing. We are getting these tools to help review code, which is great, but in the end, you're still going to want a human to say, like, I understand what this is doing. Otherwise, the real risk that you run, if you just like have tools generate code and you have tools review that code, is you don't have any humans who feel confident in the understanding of how the code operates, and then you are beholden to these models to change and make shifts in how the code operates. And for sufficiently complex software systems, and a browser is one, models will not always get things right. And then what do you do if you can't understand what it's built upon? Like, you're kind of stuck. You really need that human in the loop to understand what the machine is doing. You don't necessarily need humans to write every single character, but you need to have humans that can understand and say, like, yes, I think this is the right way to do it. I agree with this. I understand what is happening here, so that if another human asks, hey, why did that patch land that does this? They can explain it. There's some accountability there. There's some human accountability, because an LLM cannot be held responsible for writing a defective patch. Only the human that prompted it or the reviewer that reviewed it. Advice: learn the fundamentals. Get used to reading code. Read code. Read your own code before you submit it for review. Review other people's code. Read code. Go look at the classics. Go read some source code. Find source code's everywhere. Find your favorite open source project and start reading the source code and trying to understand how it works and get used to the feeling. Get outside of your comfort zone and ask questions. Maybe use an LLM to help interrogate the code and come up with hypotheses, testable hypotheses about how the code works. Maybe try manipulating the code a little bit and building it on your machine and making it change. That's a great way of learning how systems work, is by building it and then changing it, tweaking it, and looking at the results and testing hypotheses and building a mental map of what the code does and how it operates. I like to think, in my head, I model complex software systems like cities, and whenever you enter a new city for the first time, it's overwhelming, especially if you don't speak the language, or conventions are different. You're used to maybe your small town, maybe your little neighborhood, maybe you're just your own homebrew shack out in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly you're thrown in the middle of a city where there's transit and there's highways and there's restaurants and where you go see, like, there's all kinds of stuff, and you have to learn on the ground where things are, how to get to certain places, where the locals are where the good food is, where do you go get entertainment, where do you go get groceries. Like, you learn these things by walking around the city and trying stuff. Try a restaurant to see if you like it, try ordering different things on the menu, go to a grocery store, see what the prices are, and purchase some things, make some food, explore your city, explore the code base, learn how to interact with it, understand over time how it works. It's not going to be immediate. It took me years when I moved to Toronto to understand really how the city more or less works. I still don't know if I fully understand it, but like, it took me a while, for example, to get used to the transit system and buses and streetcars and the subways, and like how to get from point A to point B efficiently, and what tools there are that are available to you to do that. And that just takes time and practice and failure. It takes effort and taking the leap to try some stuff and see what happens and learn from it. And because, like, some things are going to go right and some things are going to go wrong, and then you learn from the things that go wrong and go right, and you refine your mental map of the city or the code base, the ecosystem of code, and then you repeat, and you learn. So that, I guess, is my advice. Is pretty sure the folks managing Toronto don't know how the transit system works either. Sick burn, and chops busted. The city's chops have been busted. Well done, and fully agreed. Our transit system is fine. It could be better, a lot better. It could be a lot worse, but it could be so much better. It's scary sometimes thinking about it. Don't be afraid. Sharpen your skills. Read code. Get good at reading code. Read it, understand it. If you don't understand it, read it line by line. Everything that is written can be understood if you stare at it long enough and you test hypotheses and ask questions. You can get it. You can understand it. In the end, it's just code. It's just instructions. It's just moving bits around in a register or in memory. And if you take a big problem and you break it down small enough, eventually you get into these consumable bits. You can build up the mental map. It just takes time to build up the momentum. And it may seem like you have a lot of inertia that's preventing you from doing that. And it can look scary to look at the workforce of a bunch of people who are familiar with all these things, and they can make changes so quickly, and it's getting reviewed and things are landing. But at this point in time, I would say, if you are entering the software industry and you're working in a shop that's not reviewing the patches that are being potentially written by LLMs, you're on. That is what I would call a career limiting move, or a project limiting move. You want to have humans understand what the code is doing, and not just trusting the output. You want humans in the loop. So those are my thoughts. I don't know if that was at all helpful. Get good at reading code. Learn the fundamentals. There are plenty of books, plenty of resources on the internet. And that way you can recognize whenever an LLM or one of these tools is using them properly or improperly. And you can say, like, hey, hold on a second. Like, I've used these tools before, and more often than not, I'm correcting it. It's trying something, I'm going like, no, that's wrong. Like, you don't want to do it that way. So you'll know that you, I think, are getting a clear understanding of a topic when you are correcting the LLM more. How's that for a threshold? When you are correcting the LLM. And you should question whether or not you have a high degree of expertise in a field if everything in LLM sounds instantly believable. At that point, it's like, okay, maybe you should beef up a little bit on the fundamentals, go to the library, go to get some books, read up on it, and then try again. All right, I think I've done my best at answering that question. If anyone else has any follow-up questions in this area, because I know our industry, I'm getting kind of sick and tired of talking about this stuff, but at the same time, it is the big sort of thing in the industry that people are thinking about and talking about. It is what's moving things. And I think I much prefer this than the cryptocurrency discourse. Thankfully, the cryptocurrency discourse has more or less vanished, at least in my conversation spheres. That was just intolerable. At least that way, like I people were really pushing blockchains and stuff and being so excited about them, and I never got a convincing argument about the value. And at least here, someone can bang out a prototype or a tool, like a one-off tool. I've seen it. I've actually done it. I've banged out a one-off tool, like just a little Python script that I needed to do on a weekend. I didn't want to spend hours writing it to do some OCR stuff for my taxes, and I needed to scan a bunch of documents, and I didn't want to turn it into a weekend-long project. So I had an LLM bang it out, and it's not like I'm sharing this with the world. It's just for me. It was very specialized, but it did the job. It did the job. It did save me time. It did save me time. So these tools have utility, but not everything is a nail. It's a hammer, and not everything is a nail. It's a tool. It's an Iron Man suit. It's an exoskeleton. It's for lifting heavy things. But you don't, or to use another analogy, you don't need to use a lightsaber to turn off the lights or to unzip your jacket. You want to use the right tool for the job. It's just another tool in the toolbox. And you have to know how to wield the tools. We are the tool wielders. Know how to wield the tool, and that means understanding what the tool is doing. Okay, I'm done. I'm fully done now. All right, so I want to go through some review feedback on the remote renderer. Also, I've turned on, there's a pref. Some of you may have caught wind that we're like starting a retheme of the browser. We've landed some initial stabs at it. It is still very much imperfect. There are plenty of problems. And it is a lot of rough edges, and it is not on by default, but I turned it on in my nightly just because I like to see the rough stuff as it's coming in. One of the rough things is like the URL bar has this big round circle. Like that looks just wrong. But it also like tabs are a slightly different shape. You'll notice that the highlight colors are different. Let's see, what else is different? Yeah, the menus look a little different. Like it's coming. It's gonna take a while, but we've started to make little stabs of changes off by default. The colors of like these toggles are different. We're getting into like a purpley kind of vibe. And like on the new tab page here, you can see like with what's called Nova enabled, like my top sites are a little more dense. We're gonna start tinkering with showing more top sites per row, maybe more rows by default. We're gonna tinker with that. There's this hover effect. Yeah. So let's take a look at the patch. It is the remote renderer. And there was like a bunch of feedback that came in from my colleague Scott, and I wanted to look at that today. I have not looked at this at all yet. So I would like to look at that today. I'm going to rebase these patches first of all, while I look at this. Here, let me pump up the font so you can see what I'm doing. So the log. These are the patches right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to rebase onto main. And now they're on there. I'm gonna edit OZ, which is an empty one, but I am going to do a binary build in the background while we look at these review comments. Actually, before I do that, the simpler patches all got approved. So this is like the beefy one. Let me make sure that there's nothing like with comments, like there's nothing to change here. Let me update the tags for testing elsewhere. The tests for this mechanism are in the final patch in the stack at such and such. I might need to do the same thing for here. And this does not need to be tested, this one. Okay, so the comments, the vast majority of the comments are on this last one, which makes sense. It's the big beefy one. Okay, so let's start going through it. So here we are inside of the remote renderer, and we're inside this constructor. Should this await, or is it fine we fire and forget? If we do fire and forget, maybe a comment. So maybe this should await. Deferred task. What happens when the deferred task is a promise? Let's look at deferred task. When the task is a promise, the task cannot be canceled again. It's however possible to arm the timer during the execution of the task. The timer, finish before the task will need to finish before the timer started again. The finalize method can be used to ensure the task terminates properly. I think he is right. We do want to await there. You're right. We do want to await here. Entry where maybe revalidate, which, where is that? Validate. Yeah, here we re-enter, maybe revalidate when an earlier call is still awaiting, while a prior call is still not yet resolved. So that's a good call. I'm going to make that change. So where's that? That's remote renderer. In the constructor, await. Yes, and that makes sense. It's probably what I wanted to do because I had made this async. I just forgot to do it. So well done. Good eye. Good eye. I'm going to compliment his good eye. You're right. Danny Colin says, in case you missed it, here's a cool Firefox kit wallpaper. Let's see this. Wow, that is very cool. That is very cool. Let me share a link to this in the agenda. A very cool kit wallpaper. If people want to cool kit wallpaper, do stuff with that. You can set as your new tab background, or maybe if you want to use that as your desktop background. Look at Kit. Look at you go. So cute, so fast, so curious. This one is like, oh, I'm about to pounce and, I don't know, take out a cookie or something. Take out a tracking cookie. Very nice. Okay, so that was the first piece of feedback. Let's move on. Next. Clears so this one is resetting the cache. Just guessing here, but I suspect the current renderer version is the wrong thing here because I cannot find it defined anywhere. Maybe a previous iteration left over. I think he is absolutely right. I think he's absolutely right. Current renderer version is undefined. It's supposed to be remote renderer version. Which makes me a little, means that we were never entering this in reset cache, which probably means we should up our testing a little bit. Good catch. That makes it more obvious that I wasn't properly testing resetting the cache too. I wasn't fully testing resetting the cache too in the test remote renderer test. I'll add a test for resetting there. More robust testing. And are these hashes used anywhere? I actually think they aren't anymore. Style hash. No, they aren't used anymore. Style hash and what was the other hash? Script hash. Yeah, we can get rid of those. Hang on. Why I wanted to respond. Are these hashes used anywhere? Here. Have I somehow collapsed this? Where? Yeah, here's what I wanted to reply to. Ah, another leftover. Thanks, removed. We can just take whatever is first here because we just care about version. Both types would always have the same version. If so, maybe a comment here on what we don't care about which type and can just get version from either. So we probably want to ensure gets the expected version by checking the version field in the records. Yeah, for now we'd only have a single version ever published to remote settings. So both the CSS and scripts should share that version number. I'll add a comment. Get expected version. In the current model, we will only have a single renderer published to remote settings. At any given time, and it is expected that both the script and style resources will have the same version string, so we just return the first records version. Okay. Done. Is this a to-do? To remember to add a comment. It sure is. It sure is. How embarrassing. I don't even know how to spell that. All right, how embarrassing. As in Moz new tab remote renderer protocol parent. Moz new tab remote renderer protocol parent. To do. This class this is the parent JS actor. This is the parent actor for communications with communications that are occurring from the privileged about content process using the Moz new tab remote renderer protocol. Renderer protocol. Typically, that protocol is used to load the remote renderer scripts and styles from either the local bundle or the cached version in the HTTP cache that was downloaded from remote settings. Okay. That's done. Also not sure where app params is coming from. Was it intended to be app props? App props. This assigned renderer. Remote renderer. App params. App props. It is supposed to be app props. Yes. Yes. Yes, indeed. This is my reviewer finding bugs, finding issues with what I wrote. The test above has the same name. Aha, yes. Good call. Test remote renderer. Should attempt to revalidate after calling a sign. Test revalidate on calling sign. And should prefer the bundle version when it's... Yeah. Okay, now clear cache. Reset cache? Yeah. Test reset cache. Clearly not... wasn't working as I had intended because we were never entering here. Yeah, we were never checking to see whether or not those entries were doomed. So, to do assert entries doomed. Do that in a sec. Is the only thing guaranteeing that this event happens after new tab render has set up the new tab renderer ready event listener, being the arbitrary and independent load event on the script? Let's see here. Is this technically a timing issue, but in practice would always happen after the new tab render.js file is executed, and thus the event is ready to be listened for? When is this occurring? And DOM content loaded. If I'm right, I assume this would always be right currently, but if some timing stuff were to change in the future, this might bite someone. So if new tab render is delayed for some reason, this load event on the script might fire load before new tab render is done. That's true. That's true. And then he suggests, could we put app props on something like the window? Then in new tab render, we just grab it, not need to send an event over. New tab render would still need to know when to run. So perhaps we can split the difference. We can set the property on the window as you suggest, but have new tab render.js look for it, and have new tab render look for it and use it if it's there, but if it is not there, have it wait for this event to fire, which indicates that it has been written and can be used. So that would address both of those. Curious, why is it these scripts need to be injected versus baked into the HTML? At least in this file, the sources seem to be fairly static. And I think it's to guarantee ordering? Yeah, I don't know anymore. Like, if we're gonna... We do want to do the event thing and set the app props. Oh, we have to wait for the renderer to be assigned. So I do have an answer for this. So this is because we want a guarantee that the script and styles are going to be part of a matching pair of resources and not get into weird states where one has been updated and the other hasn't finished being updated yet. So what we do at the top of this conditional is use send query to tell the parent process to hold on to the details of the renderer. Let's verify this. So we assign and get back the details about it. And then we get the stream. And what is holding the... Because we reset the cache. Because wasn't there a plan like on shutdown? Doom cache entry on shutdown. Right. I see it now. Okay, so we doom cache entry on shutdown. Okay, so we don't actually get rid of the entries. Reason. Oh boy, that's a big old blob of... Big old blob. Okay, hold on to the details of the renderer, particularly the version string, so that we guarantee that the script and style loads will have the same version. This is because we create different cache entries based on the versions, version strings, and we don't blow away old versions immediately in reset cache. We schedule them to be destroyed on shutdown. This effectively means if we are in the midst of updating if we are holding remote renderer 1.0.0 and the renderer, the host document loads and starts pulling in 1.0.0, just as we're updating to 2.0.0 of the renderer, that host document is guaranteed to pull in both the 1.0.0 style and scripts, even if if we finish writing 2.0.0 of the renderer to the cache before the load has completed. This is because the pref of the current remote revision, I think is what it's called. The pref of the pref is the last thing to be written after updating the cache, but we keep the stale value around in the background. The stale cache around the stale? Outdated cached resources around in the background for anybody who still happens to want them until we shut down. So awaiting the assignment is why we need to then dynamically inject the resource loads. The assignment to a particular version needs to happen first, and it happens asynchronously. Okay, next question. Should this block be before the Nova enabled check? If I understand this, we probably don't need any Nova styling. Should this be before the Nova enabled check? Yeah, we can move that. Yep. Works for me. So we'll do that. About new tab child. What do we want here? We're going to take all of this and we're going to put it right here. Next. Is it the plan to essentially do away with the startup cache for the renderer page, or is it still going to go through the startup cache somehow, or is this something we want to solve for later? I'm gonna solve for that later. I think we disable. Do I disable the cache? Not really. Maybe we should. I'm gonna solve for that later. For the about home startup cache later. Okay, so that's all of the comments. So one thing I want to do is once this is done building, I want to rerun the tests, make sure that our test remote renderer patches. Our patch still passes the tests. While we're waiting for this, though, I was reviewing something else before the stream started. I want to finish it off. It's a review from a new contributor, but I was getting a problem trying to get my build to work. So let me see if I can get the build working correctly. So here I am on my Windows machine. I'm reviewing a patch from a volunteer contributor. I think it's an outreach candidate. And they're removing the old Internet Explorer migrator. And the patches looked good to me. I just need to finish reviewing them. I actually need to test them, is what I was in the midst of doing, but I couldn't get my build to work. So let's build. Let's see how that goes. Let's go back to over here. We're building through Toolkit. This may take a couple minutes. In the meantime, let's inspect those patches that I was going to review, the migrator ones. Okay, doing that over here. I'm going to bring that over here. Okay. Okay, so I requested changes on this one already. There was this one that Heist was happy with. And then this one, I think I had a comment already where it's like we need to rename the registration here. How are we doing for, oh, is it? Okay, good. It's compiling. What is it compiling? Is it compiling everything again? All the rest stuff? All right, we'll come back to you in a couple minutes. Doing too much compiling. One thing to note, if you're ever doing local builds, binary builds, it used to be that I couldn't tell where we were in the build process. I'd be like, how much longer is it going to be? And I now understand that it's in alphabetical order for the most part. Like, we build the directories in alphabetical order, and then there's also like some dependencies where we have to like go back and build another thing that was depending on something over here being built, or vice versa. Like, well, I guess this is the same thing, but like if there are dependencies, and we try not to have too many cross dependencies, that you want to make it so the individual folders can be constructed and then linked together at the end. So there's that way, when you change one thing, you don't have to necessarily change the whole world. You don't have to recompile the whole world, which you would if you were having so many cross dependencies or something. But yeah, we can see here that like I finished at the very bottom, XPFE. That was the last. That's the last alphabetically ordered folder, and then I go back and I compile the XP Connect shell, which makes sense. It relies on XPCOM and all this stuff. And we're building now all this like media stuff, all these memory tools, which are presumably all dependent on earlier things. And now we're going back through security. And I presume we're doing these dependencies in alphabetical order as well. And now through third party, Toolkit. One of the last things to build is Zool.dll on Windows, or just libzool is what we call it. And that is building toolkit/library. So it looks like we're also building the tests as well. That's getting towards the end. But building libzool is usually one of the last things before you build. Like once you've built libzool, you're seconds, if 1 or 2 minutes away from being done your build. It looks like style has to recompile. Or one of the things that it's dependent on, or one of the things that we need to compile later on, I guess, is some parts of some Rust things in the style. Maybe the stylo stuff. You can, like, anything that says like compiling in front of it in green, also that's Rust. That's a Rust crate being built. Now we're building Glean, and I think libzool happens like right after this, or soon after. Here we go. This is Toolkit Library. That's libzool. So we're building libzool right now, and then so this, once that's linking. That's linking a bunch of stuff together, and then we can go ahead and it's done linking. Some last minute stuff. Meanwhile, over here, I don't know what state this is in. So let's let it keep going. Keep going. And our stuff, now we're just like building all the tests, all the C++ tests. if there are any questions in the audience, feel free to fire them off. I can try and answer them while we wait for this build to complete. Meanwhile, let's inspect this last patch that I was reviewing. So removing the test. So yeah, we can get rid of this test directory. That's correct. Still need to do the edge stuff. We renamed this. We made this one not test IE anymore. Were there other things in here that were related to IE? I don't think so. Doesn't look like it. And then we removed these parts of the tests where we were like faking out or stubbing out a bunch of like Internet Explorer history, and we got rid of the unit tests here for IE bookmarks and history. Don't need those anymore. Got rid of the registration here. Was there anything else related to IE in these tests? Usually they'd be like test underscore IE, so yeah, I think we got them all. Yeah. And then getting rid of this entry in MS-COM init for linting. So that's good. So that all looks legit. And that's still compiling, so we'll just let it compile. Maybe it'll be done by the time we're done writing our test for remote renderer. Holy cow, yeah. So we finished building libzool right around, where was it? So yeah, we're building like a bunch of tests. We finished building libzool right here. We actually build the Firefox binary right here. It's very small. I don't know if you've ever checked, but the Firefox binary is really just, its job is to like load libzool and like read from the asset pack, basically. Libzool's doing all the heavy lifting. That is the thing that, no. That, I don't think that's the actual part where we build libzool. I don't know what that is. I'm fairly certain toolkit libraries when you build libzool. The good news, like I haven't done a binary build in a while, which is why this is taking so long. My SC cache is probably getting really refreshed, resaturated, and modern stuff. So yeah, we're getting some cache hits, but a lot of cache misses. We're writing into the cache. So subsequent builds, here's the thing you can do. Watch. Subsequent builds, we can hopefully expect some faster build performance. At least until I pull again. Man. Yeah, it used to be the case that once libzool was done building, you were almost done. Things have changed. Oh, we're building a bunch of stuff for Neko. The HTTP server. Okay, we've exited compilation. Now we're doing all of the like miscellaneous stuff at the end. We do a couple of quick tests. And then we package some stuff up, some tools, and then we call it a day. We know it took a while, but your build finally finished successfully. Okay, great. So now let's test browser, extensions, new tab, test, XPC shell test, remote renderer. Let's make sure that still passes. Okay, now it failed. Should never have evaluated a cached renderer. Huh. So that is failing based on the changes that we've made. Should never have evaluated a cached renderer. So we didn't make too many changes. Let's take a look at the test that's failing. Test higher bundled version 350. Let's see what it does. So in this test here, let's run it on its own. Also, this should definitely wait, should it not? Reset renderer, does that? Oh. Renderer reset cache, yeah. Oh, is not returning a promise. It does not return a promise. And Doom schedules all cached, the current cache renderer entries to be doomed on shutdown. Also, yeah. Okay. So 350. Should never have evaluated a cache render. So make manifest entry URI was not called. So we create a remote renderer. We say that the cached version is 1.0.0, but the bundled version is greater. And we're saying, oh, no, we will call those things in order to doom them. We're just testing the wrong things. So we need to change how this test works. This is a busted test. Wait, hold on. No, I'm wrong. Because we're not resetting, we're assigning. We are assigning. So why? Let's read the log. Remote renderer constructed. Evaluating remote renderer version 1.0.0. Bundled version is 1.0.1. And then we say using bundled version. So we go down here. Using bundled version. And we reset the cache. That's why. We reset the cache, which does cause us to make the script entry URI for the... as like a safety. Reset cache, but that's only if there's a remote renderer version, and we're saying that we do have we have one available. So we do want it called in order to reset the cache. So what we really want to do is let reset cache stub equal renderer equal sandbox.stub renderer reset cache, and then assert renderer reset cache.called. We should have reset the renderer after finding out the bundled. We should have cleared the cache once we realized the bundled one renderer had a higher version. And then we need to, we're not going to stub, we're going to spy. We're going to spy. And then now, I guess we don't need to do this part anyways. Let's do that now. We should have cleared the cache, so we didn't. Called once. Was called. Renderer reset cache. Let's put a debugger here. Let's debug this thing. What? We exited somehow. What? Let's try that again. For some reason, we're not hitting our debugger statement. 352. Let's put our debugger closer to the top. I don't know why that would make a difference, but let's try it. Failing that, we'll just manually set the breakpoint. Okay, getting upset. Getting upset. I don't like this. Inspect. Set a breakpoint right here. Now, do you understand? Yes. Okay, good. Doot 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 doot. Okay, so now renderer reset cache was called once. False. Called. False. Get call 0. There is no call. So it was never called. All right, let's rerun that. I want to rerun it and follow through when we call assign what is going to happen. Oh, wait a second. Do I need to do that? I need to do it before I call assign. That's why. All right. And then I don't need to hold a reference to the spy. Let's try this. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Should prefer the bundled version when its version number is higher than the cache. Yes, okay, that all looks good. Now let us... Good, I like that. Okay, so now I want to test reset cache. Should clear prefs and schedule cache entries to be doomed on shutdown. So the way we check to see whether or not they're doomed, let's take a look. Doom cache entry on shutdown. We have this thing called cache entry URIs to doom at shutdown. Excuse me. So we have a method will doom on shutdown, and that's what we should call. We should document this. Returns true if the entry associated, the cache entry associated with the string URI, the passed in string URI, is scheduled to be doomed on shutdown. String. Wait. No, it's not a string. It's an NSI URI. Passed in URI is scheduled to be doomed on shutdown. Returns Boolean. Okay, so will doom on shutdown. So now over here, test version. What do we want here? We're gonna create the URIs. Assert okay renderer, and then was it will doom on shutdown. This should be false. Manifest URI not yet scheduled to doom this entry. And then script URI, and then style URI, and then it's the other way around down here. Assert OK. Scheduled to doom the manifest entry, the script entry, the style entry, scheduled to doom a manifest entry, scheduled to doom the script entry, scheduled to doom the style entry. Okay, so let us run that. Great. Okay, I like that. I think I put a to-do somewhere here, didn't I? Didn't I put a to-do? I guess I cleared the... Oh, I've got a debugger in there. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay. Let us squash those changes in. Let us now manually test. Meanwhile, how's our build going over here? It's done! Hooray! So I want to test the migration. Let's do the XPC shell test first. Is it unit? Unit. Okay, and run here. Okay, so we're going to enable the remote renderer. Restart. Allow. Also, I need to enable, because this is the bundled one, and the bundled one will not update until I have, what is it called? Remote settings, DevTools. Here's the thing I have to install. Remote settings, DevTools. We're going to switch over to dev version. Bundled, bundled. Eventually, all that stuff is going to be updated. Bundled. Bundled. Do I need to restart? Come on. Bundled. Bundled. Hey, how come you're not scheduling the remote renderer? Maybe revalidate. Okay, bundled version. We're now the latest version is null. So current version, latest version, it being null is strange. Do I need to be in dev preview? New renderer. Renderer. There it is. What are you talking about? Sync. Latest version. There we go. I just needed to sync again. There we go. So then, that's the fallback renderer. Remote renderer. Yay! That's working. Okay. So I feel good about that. Now, some of the other stuff that he had mentioned. I liked his idea of bypassing what is a possible race condition or working to avoid a particular race condition by X-rayed win, wave X-rays, content, dispatch. We'll say X-rayed win dot app props equals clone into and then I guess we don't need to do this part here. Then oh, we kind of do because maybe we do this even before we assign the renderer, and then this can be just embedded like normal. Renderer host, remote renderer host, script source equals new tab render. Okay, build. Okay. Can't access property render. Okay, yeah. Sorry. And then I need to update new tab renderer to if remote renderer, then if window.appProps mount. Yeah, let's put that. Window.appProps props. Otherwise, do this. Maybe I'll have this be a function. Let mount equal otherwise. Okay, try that. Next week EU is also on summertime? Is it? Oh my goodness. We did a time change a few weeks back and I don't know, this one was the hardest one I've ever had to do. I don't know why. Can't access property render without state. New tab render utils. What? Window.appProps. Window.remote renderer. So on line 29, I guess we must Okay, so it's no good. Part of the reason why this is happening too late. Maybe I can put that here. Wait until the next switch when folks on the West Coast will stick to summertime and confuse everyone. That's true. BC has decided they're done. They're done. They're no longer going to do the daylight, the changes of the changing, which is good for them. Good for them. Maybe someday we'll do the same thing. It's a little bit of a caching issue there, but I won't worry about it for now. Okay, I like that. I mean, maybe if we do our send query in element doc element inserted, then we could move these out. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's see what happens if we do it that way. Oh, but I still need to wait for the... When does the load event fire? Load event. The load event is fired when the whole page is loaded, including all dependent resources such as style sheets, scripts. Okay, so if I do this in here, let me think for a second here. Load. If I send the query here, that will occur before these have a chance to go through. Okay. Because I think that would be ideal. Let's test it. So if I do link rel style sheet, was it source? Or is it ref? Ref. Of course. And then I give it remote renderer. I just say style. And then down here, I do remote renderer script. Do this when we inject the doc element.
then do this. I'm going to get rid of all of this. Actually, let me put it, let me just get rid of all this, that entire function. Oh, wait, hold on. I want to return early. And we'll get rid of all this. Let's see what that does. No. No good. Somehow got an input stream request before the renderer was assigned. So that's no good. Before the renderer was assigned. So this is coming in too late. What are the other elements or the other events I can wait for? Document element inserted. On before resource. Script tag. There's like a script element. HTML script element. We notify or dispatch. What are the events fired by a script element? To detect start of load. Content loaded. What's earlier? Load, before unload, unload, load. Except those are loaded lazily. Does not bubble. Target is talking path to avoid running script at the end of the document body. You should usually only use the load event to wait for external resources such as images or deferred scripts to load. The Ready State API. The HTML parser is still working. The documents and parsed with sub-resources are still loading. When the ready state reaches complete loading, the document is loading. Looks a bit funky, the drop-down shadow, the address bar on the new tab page. Which shadow? This one? I'm not sure what you mean. Okay, I'm going to revert what I've done. I'm going to put this back. I'm almost at the end of the stream. I'm going to put this back. Maybe there's a better way of doing this, but the ordering of the scripts, I think I can continue to not put that there. But in order to no, I'm gonna put that there as well. And then we get rid of all these. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you're talking about the big circle, that is a known problem with Nova enabled. Source attribute, the script element is not a valid. What are you talking about? Oh, whoops. What did I do wrong? Create element script source append child. What have I done wrong? Oh. Right. I think how I had it I preferred. And if that works, I'm happy with it. Let's take a look at the tests over here. That looks like it worked nicely. Let's run our tests for components migration test browser. And finally, I think we also need to get rid of, if I remember correctly, the IE image. So that is no longer being packaged. Okay, so I'm going to squash that and I'll post a new version up for review. I think I'm going to cap it there. Hey, thanks so much for watching episode 434 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. There's a link to rate this episode. Send in questions like this one. That was an interesting question. Or send in comments. I'll put a link in the chat, link to rate this episode. I'll put it in the chat. I read everything that comes in. Check out the cool kit wallpaper. And let me know your thoughts on the stream and what I can do better, more of, less of, etc., etc. And with that, I'll call it. Thank you so much for watching The Joy of Coding. I have been Mike Conley. I will see you soon. Have yourselves a great week, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.